Yes, there are profits. Is it important to do that? Why should we do that? That's why we studied EVA. Okay? Because we want to financially measure the performance of our suppliers, or of suppliers to Chipiku. So they are the farmers, smallholder farmers who do vegetables, Charity Butchery, which does the supply of meats and other meat products, Lilongo Dairy, which does the yogurts and other products, and then Castell, which supplies beers such as Kuche Kuche. Chibuku is supplied by Chibuku Industry. Chibuku, yes. In case they have. So Kuche Kuche, Maui Gin, Brandy, and others. Right? So for us to comprehensively measure their financial stand, we'll use EVA, and we are going to use these ratios. Okay? So these ratios will actually give us a proper assessment on how we can interpret. So remember what I said? The biggest factor is the interpretation. Yeah? The interpretation of the ratios. So you need to interpret the ratios properly. Where do we get this information from? Financial statements. Yeah? Financial statements. Yes, so it includes profit and loss. It includes balance sheet. And what? Cash flow statements. No, it's not added. So these are the key documents that you use for you to extract that information and assess it. Okay? So today we want to look at how this now becomes part of the strategic objectives of the organization. All right? So today we want to link the metrics to the overall strategic objectives. So remember that every department in the organization has got its own plan, has got its own objectives and strategies, right? Okay, so let's just go back to our example here. We have got Chibiku Stores, who has the procurement department. They have got the human resource department. They have got accounts department. Maybe they also have got an IT department. Maybe they also have got a marketing department. Okay? Obviously, yeah, maybe. So, how is it obvious? Yes. Okay. So that can be done by marketing, stroke administration. Yeah. Yeah. So we are looking at these departments now. Okay. All of them have got their own goals and objectives and strategies. But at the end of the day, all these objectives, they must make sure that they correspond to the overall objectives of Chipiku as a whole. Okay? If Chipiku wants to increase sales, then this marketing department the HR department, the procurement department, the accounts, IT, must have goals that correspond to that increase of sales and put in strategies that do that. Flyers, newspaper adverts, TV adverts, radio adverts. Like nowadays we have got these social media updates. Yeah. So all that human resource has to be able to employ people that have got the skills. Yeah, to increase sales. That means they are corresponding to what people wants to do. Okay. The same with procurement. They must ensure that they are procuring goods on time, so that the increase of sales is achieved. IT must ensure that they're able to track the products incoming and outgoing. Okay? So that they understand the levels of replenishment and be able to make orders. Information has to be sent to procurement to make orders. Accounts, they have to pay first the suppliers. Yeah? All these will help the people we are talking about here to be able to achieve their overall objectives. Okay? So, we need now to link that to the overall objectives. And like we said, that we've got about 5 metrics. Okay? Not each one of those metrics is comprehensively capable of analyzing or giving us information about the supply chain, the measurement of the supply chain. Some of them lack. Even this one, as much as it is talking about financial stability, it does not talk about quality. Yeah? So it means there's some, there are some gaps. So let's look at what we want to cover today. All right? So today we want to look at developing a performance measurement system. How do we come up with one? How do we come up with a performance measurement system? And then the problems that we should anticipate with performance measurement. And lastly, aligning performance measurement with the overall objectives of the organization. In any case, we should remember that the supply chain has to be measured. And organizations must ensure that whatever they have measured, particularly when it comes to supply chain, we are in procurement, right? Particularly those that we measure in supply chain, a decision has to be made. When there's a gap identified, that gap has to be filled by improvement of performance. If, for instance, we go to the office and there is what is called performance appraisal, right? And in the performance appraisal, they are telling you that no, you have fallen short of this, of that. Yeah? There has to be a remedy how to correct that. And therefore, the correction of that remedy is to improve your performance. Either putting you on training, okay? Getting you back to school, on the job or off the job. But what we're talking about is there has to be an improvement in performance. And we always say that performance measurement does not exist in a vacuum. It requires KPIs or targets. So the first thing that we have to understand is there has to be a target. Okay? So a target for the marketing department here is to achieve 5% sales in a month. Okay, to achieve 5% sales in a month. So this becomes the target, right? For the marketing department to achieve 5% sales in a month. So when you are measuring the performance, let's say we are now reviewing the performance, okay? We'll look at this. Was the 5% achieved? Yeah, sometimes it can be achieved or surpassed, okay? Or sometimes it may not be achieved. So we need to understand the reasons for both positive feedback or adverse feedback. We need to understand both and be able to make correct decisions. And some of these metrics, they do not have other aspects, okay? They do not have other dimensions, and which makes it a little bit of a challenge, because when we have the single dimension metrics, like the traditional performance measures, they are only restricted to a particular measure. It becomes difficult. But what we should aim at is to come up with metrics that are multidimensional. The multidimensional ones include which ones? Multidimensional measures or multidimensional metrics. Any examples? When you say multi, what do we mean? Multi, many. Yeah? So we have seen the metrics that we have studied. Some of them are multidimensional. When you say multidimensional, it means they have got so many areas that they cover. Yeah? Those ones are the ones that would give us at least a bit more comprehensive information. Like the balanced scorecard is multidimensional. Yeah? It looks at so many angles. The score framework looks at so many angles. Yeah? So you see this statement, financial measures alone are not sufficient, and therefore the modern approaches emphasize a balanced scorecard. This, much as it emphasizes on the profitability measures of a company or of a supplier or any other entity that surrounds us in supply chain, they are not all that sufficient. So we need to emphasize on the multi-dimensional measures that will help us now to achieve our performance measurement goals. In relation to supply chain performance measurement, the SCORE model includes standard metrics to measure process performance. Other supply chain performance measures also include, remember this? Yeah? They include the EFQM, the dashboard, and the economic value added metrics. Yeah? Do we remember these metrics? The dashboard was under the SCORE model, because at the end of the SCORE model we said we put everything into the dashboard to see the signals that it presents when we are doing the comparisons. Are we together? Let's develop a performance measurement system. So the first thing to use when you are developing a performance measurement system is to set KPIs. Yeah? Make sure that you have got KPIs, key performance indicators or targets. So we are saying we have set 5% increase in sales in a month for our sales team. Performance measurement implies comparison, and therefore an organization cannot arbitrarily or randomly or disjointly track performance without clear, distinct targets or KPIs. So for us to set our, or to develop our performance measurement system, we are going to look at the 6-step procedure, right? The 6-step procedure. Under the 6-step procedure, we have got 6 levels where we have to ensure that we follow and understand and be able to compare information or compare notes on how the set objectives or the set standards have been met. So there will be what is called actual against KPI, or actual against set standard. So you set the standard or set the KPI or the target, and then you compare. That process is what is important. That process is what is going to show you the variance, either a positive variance or a negative variance. Okay? A positive variance means what? Positive variance to we're doing good, and the negative one means we are failing to achieve our targets. Yeah, we are failing to achieve our targets. So the first step is to determine which areas to measure. Determine which areas to measure. There are so many areas. Here, Chipiku, there are so many areas that they can measure, right? Why did they emphasize on increase in sales? Why not ICT? Why not procurement? Why not HR? So, determining which areas to measure is very critical. And there has to be a sound judgment on which specific areas. One of the problems, if you notice in our outline, one of the problems we said, okay, we haven't gone there yet, but is to outline problems with performance measures. And one of the problems is failure to identify the areas to measure. When you fail to identify the appropriate areas to measure, you have the wrong results. You're putting the wrong effort. You're wasting time and resources. So it says the organization should look at its strategy and corporate objectives and determine the categories of metric which will help the organization to identify what it wants to investigate. Now see, the key word here is to investigate. What do we do when we investigate? Yep. Key thing is information. Okay? When you're investigating something, is you're collecting information about that thing. When the police are doing their investigation, what do? They look for leads, information about that thing. So here, we have to identify that area, and then we start to investigate. When we start to investigate, it will give us a lot of information. And that information is what we use to either enhance performance, maintain performance, or pull up our socks so that we should catch up. Step number two is establish performance measures. Establish which performance measures So let's establish one. Let's bring the matrix. Which ones are appropriate? So we may not use one metric, we may not use all the metrics, but we should choose the appropriate metrics. Yeah? The ones that we find fit to our business. If we are investigating about quality, we should not put too much effort on the EVA, right? Because EVA is looking at the financial stability, financial position. And the same applies if we are looking at the financial health of our supply chain partners. We should not concentrate on the EFQM, but rather we should focus on the key areas that we want to investigate. And therefore, choosing the appropriate metric is important. So in this step 2, we establish the performance measures. We bring in the measurement tools. So establish which measurable facets of the process will be involved. Tracking these KPIs should not bring confusion or distracting people from focusing their activities. What they're trying to say is the metrics that we are going to use, they should not distract or they should not make people to be off track. Okay? So if we're bringing a performance measurement tool here on our targets to achieve 5% sales, so maybe we'll bring in the balance scorecard. Yeah? We are bringing the balance scorecard tool to help us achieve 5% sales increase in a month. So the balance scorecard has got 4 variables, right? Do you remember them? Number 1. Number 1. Yeah?
It's number 1 is I don't even know. You get more what? Employed
Learning and innovation.
What about the
Finance, number 2. Customers. Yeah? You are forgetting how to use the okay. So now I want to bring that here. We are trying to measure the performance, or we have set our target to measure the performance to achieve this, and we want to use the brand scorecard. So there are those 4 variables, right? Yeah. Comprehensively, we will look into all of them to help us investigate the information which the targets that we want to achieve at the end. So people should not be distracted. They should understand that there is a performance measurement process happening. Okay? If you're dealing with suppliers, inform them that your performance is being measured. If it's your internal staff, tell them that your performance is being measured and these are your targets, right? Don't do it in secret because you don't want to ambush them. It's not an ambush, it's not a war. Performance measurement is not a war, but it's a tool that will help us to improve our performance. At the end of the day, it's Chipico which is going to benefit when their staff, yeah, are able to achieve 5%. And they can even adjust. What if they are able to achieve more than 5%? Yeah? It means they will have to readjust that target, 10%, 15%, increase more resources to them. Okay? Let's look at the third one. Establish standards for comparison. Establish standards for comparison. So at this point, will set the standard against actual. Target against actual. So performance measurement cannot be done without a target, standards or expectations against which to compare it. So I remember the first time that we were doing Barnes scorecards, Eunice asked about benchmarking. Yeah, remember? So benchmarking is also a process of comparing. Okay? So people in the organization should participate in setting standards as it helps to create commitment and feelings of ownership. If you're being measured, if your performance is being measured, at least be involved in the setting of your targets or goals. Yeah? So how did they come up with 5%? How did management come up with 5%? They looked at the resources, the expectations, the role that you play, the job that you have been given. Okay? But in any case, they should inform you as the one who is going to be doing the job that we are giving you a target of 5% increase in sales. And you should agree. Are we clear? You should agree. The same should apply when there is performance appraisal. So when you're starting work, they should tell you that, okay, this is your job description, and they break that job description now into tangible targets. Okay? Timekeeping will give you a score of 2%. So if you come on time, it means 2% is yours. Just like the way Benjamin does, he always comes in time. Hey, people are running. Printer? Okay, so we're talking about communication of the standards or the targets that you are going to be measured against. So it also increases ownership of the targets. It also increases commitment. You are committed to achieve that target. So the person that is going to be set there will be committed to achieve. But if you're not told, and then at the end of the review process, you are being told, no, you failed this because you did not do that. I wasn't told, you know? So it creates that kind of disharmony. So make sure that when you're comparing, there is proper commitment by those that you're being, those that are being involved. The same applies when the supply is being measured. Ensure that they know the areas that they are being measured against. If it's delivery period, if it's financial position, if it's commitment to improved performance, such as Kaizen. You remember Kaizen? What is Kaizen? Continuous what? Continuous improvement. Yeah. So all those areas that you can set must be towards. The fourth one is monitoring. Monitoring. So under monitoring, there is now an issue to do with how we handle the information. Okay? How we handle the information. The organization must decide how when and what data will be collected, in what format, and how will it be stored and be made accessible. So here there are technological and technical, confidentiality, access, usability, and legal dimensions to consider. Because information can be used by various people against us or for us. Yeah? Information that is used to measure performance of others must be kept well, safely. Otherwise, that information is confidential information. Remember, we are talking about investigation. So imagine in the investigation process by the police, one of the investigators sneaks out and tells the person who is being investigated that you are being investigated. Will that person still be there? No. They will run away. Okay? So we are talking about keeping the information confidential. Our investigations must be done appropriately, okay, without conflicting others, without causing confusion, without distracting efforts and performance. The same with suppliers. You tell them these are our targets. Delivery lead time, we are giving you 6 weeks. If you go beyond 6 weeks, when you are reviewing your performance, just know that the marks will be negative. So all those things have to be communicated. And that information has to be kept safely. Okay? Keeping information is in the hands of the organization and must ensure that it is kept safely by either the IT department or whosoever is doing the investigations or the performance measurement. But monitoring involves how, what, and when the data is collected and being used for. The fifth point or the fifth step is evaluation. Evaluation, performance measurement is meant to bring change, right? It is meant to bring change. So this change can either be to go above what we are doing, right? To move from where we were to a certain position, or to ensure that we conquer here the 5% that we were given, right? We don't need to remain where we were. I always give an example that if you are the best, you don't stop training, right? If you're the best athlete, you don't want to stop training. Do we stop reading when you're number one? I don't think we do. So we need to make sure that we are able to make a change when there is a performance measurement going on, or at least demonstrate that things can change. Performance data comes with communication, expectation, presentation, and interpretation. Look at this last statement. And, not last statement, but this word, interpretation. So we have to interpret this data, right? The ratios. Interpret them so that a decision can be made. The evaluation process is actually looking at how, okay, is actually looking at how do we come up with this, the positive or negative, okay? How did we come up with the positive and the negative? So if we are able to beat our target, it means we are better off, right? But still investigate what has made us to beat our target. And secondly, if we have failed to reach our target, we have to also investigate what has caused us not to be able to beat our target. What has caused that supplier not to be able to supply? All right. Remember this. There was an issue to do with. We did that in public procurement. So there was a question to say, what about that bridge that is being constructed? Okay. So that contractor was given, let's say, 36 months to complete. Yes. Yeah, I'm just giving as an example that they're given 36 months, or let's put it 24 months, right? 24 is 2 years, right? Okay. 24 months to complete. Now 24 months have elapsed, or they're going close. We are now in the midway in the first year. Then people start to ask, when is this bridge going to be completed? Okay? The first thing is they have already missed the target of 24 months, right? And we are 1 year plus 8 months. Obviously, they will not manage to complete the bridge in the next 4 months. So questions will start. How come they have failed to complete the bridge on time? And then issues start to come. PPDA did not give any objection. Right? PPDA did not give any objection. Why didn't they give any objection? Okay. So there was a 44% devaluation. So what is it about the 44% devaluation? So everything rose. Every material rose. Price of materials, cost of materials rose. Yeah? Now we start to see what has caused the contractor not to reach their target. Okay? Some of them could be justified reasons, and some of them may not be justified reasons. Okay? The 44% devaluation is none of their business. So they've got the right and to say, okay, we failed to do that because look, the prices of materials went up. We wanted a variation in the contract. Okay? We asked that the contract should be amended. Fine. We don't just amend the contract and move on. We have to agree with PPDA. We go back and look at all the options. And the prices, are they rising by 44%? So many questions. What we're trying to say here is, in the evaluation process, that's when you see how you have managed to achieve your target or you have failed to achieve your target. Some of the reasons could be justified, some of them cannot be justified. And if they're not justified, that supplier has failed. Okay? If you're failing to justify your slackiness in performance at work, at the performance review, when you are given a target, then that means marks will be taken out. If there was a bonus after performance appraisal, you may not get it. All right? So in this case, these contractors want to have business. If they will do well, if there were no problems in the contract, if there was no devaluation in the contract, we expect that they should have completed this project in 24 months. Okay? So we need to monitor, we need to track, we need to evaluate. And that's when we are coming to our next point, which is step number 6. Implement improvement action. implement improvement action. So now here we are saying we have failed to achieve our target. Obviously, we may not be able to do that in the next 4 months. So whosoever is doing it, this is the Japanese, it means they will not be able to complete the bridge in the next 4 months, and therefore 24 months target cannot be achieved. What should we do then? Okay, if funds permit, let us review the amendment of the contract and then proceed to award them, okay, what they are looking for so that they can complete the contract. So if this one was 20, let's say $28 million, okay, they want a variation to at least on the cost of materials to be $3 million. It means now the new contract price will be what? $31 million, right? Are we together?
So before you proceed,
Mm-hmm.
you have said that if they fail to accomplish the contract, so you will find a new partner or the same people you are already there.
Okay. Did you hear what I said? Okay. We go for the next one. Eunice? Okay. So I was saying they failed to achieve, yeah, on their target, 24 months completion of the bridge. Be able to access it. The public should be able to access it. So we are saying we are going towards the eighth month, meaning we are only remaining with 4 months to complete the project. Yeah? But they asked to say we cannot continue with the project because because of the devaluation, yeah, and inflationary, thing. Prices have gone up. So we are asking to increase the value of the contract. They have already started the job. They are midway, maybe 75% of that project. Yeah, they are remaining with 35%. So we can't cancel the contract, right? We will not go for the next bidder at that phase. You get it? Yeah. But what they are asking is that they should vary the contract based on the economic challenges. So in a contract, there are what you call conditions, okay, and terms. So for instance, the conditions and terms say that only a contract can only be varied if inflation hits maybe 20%. But here we're talking about 44%. I mean, devaluations at 20%. But here we're talking about 44%. It's not in their making, okay? But we have to readjust a few things before the contract is approved again. Okay? So the initial contract sum was 28 million. And what this contractor is asking is give us 3 million so that we should fully complete the project. So the new contract sum will now become $31 million after agreement and after all has been done. My emphasis is on the implementation, yeah? Implementation of improvement plan. Because there was a target and we are comparing actual against the target. So the target was 24 months. The actual will become now 32 months. Because they have now added how many months? 8 months, right? to fully perform the 35% which is left. Okay? So, they're saying the final step is to create and carry out the improvement plan. The improvement solely relies on the quality of the information emerging from the performance measurement system. If it is flawed, then the plan will also be flawed. If the performance drivers are misunderstood, then the improvement action can be compromised. So our last not last, but the other slide said something about performance cannot be measured against a target without a target, standard, or expectation against which to compare it. So we need to have a comparison which will help us to determine what kind of improvement plan we can put. Okay? So the improvement plan that we can put in these contracts or in our contracts going forward is to maybe increase the term that talks about devaluation. Let's not put a small figure. Let's not put maybe 20%. Let's put maybe 30% devaluation, so that we are still contained in that, if anything changes within that range, we are good. Okay? Those are improvement plans. So you need to take action. There has to be action taken for performance improvement. Are we together? So the same applies here. We are talking about the 5% sales. If we are failing to achieve 5% sales, then we need to take action. Yeah? Action would mean, what can we do to achieve 5% sales to our staff? What can we do? What can we do? What can Chibiku do to achieve 5% increase in sales? Okay? Intensify. Intensify advertising. Okay, reducing the prices. What else? Okay, training human resource, training their sales staff. Okay, what can they be trained on? Okay. When they go to the field, what do they speak to the customers? Yeah, there are so many things, but this is what we call action. Yeah, implementation action, because we have seen that there is a gap. So it could be that when we measure the performance is at 3.5% and is leaving a gap of 1.5. So we want to close that gap. Okay? But sometimes we may find ourselves to be in a lucky position where we say all the targets that we had set have been achieved, and therefore we need to readjust this target. Bring it 10% or 15%. Maybe we are underrating the performance of our salespeople, but we have to reward their performance. Right? It's very important. The same applies in a performance appraisal at the office. When you have achieved your targets, let's say they had put 80% as, a set standard, and you have gone up to 90%, they give you a token of appreciation to encourage your improved performance. They can even promote you. That is action being taken. And when they promote you, they expect you to achieve more than what you did last time, right? That is action being taken. Are we clear? On the 6 steps, the first one is to what? First step, determine which areas. Second, establish the performance measures, use the metrics. The third one, standards for comparison, and then monitoring, evaluation, and action. Let's look at the problems with performance measurement. Are we clear of what we are studying today? Is it making sense? Is it? You should be able to apply these things when you go to the offices. People should know that, huh? No, at your office. At your office, not employed, but even your own business.
I have a question.
Hmm?
I have a question.
Yes, Eunice.
I don't know if it's going to make sense.
Please do. Please ask.
Okay. So we are doing performance measurements. And the goal is just to know how you're performing or to apply improvement in actions.
Okay. That's a good question. Is the goal only to use the information for, you said,
To know how you're performing.
know how you're performing,
Yes.
or mostly is to apply improvement action.
So this is that question now. One of the performance measures, let's say, marketing, they're not doing well, and you want to improve it. So, do you also apply like the root cause thing? You know what's causing it?
Yes, 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 yes. So the root cause, you remember the SCORE model?
Yes.
What does it do? You remember the SCORE model? Yes. So the SCORE model is a tool that goes to the root cause of the performance deficiency. You remember? Yeah? Because we said it checks the whole supply chain. Those those 3 areas. It goes up and checks the health of the supply chain. And then it identifies the problems. And then it goes deep and look at the root cause of those problems. So, before you come up with training, you need to know what is really causing this deficiency. We said these are actions, right, that have to be taken. So, if the actions are there, what else has caused the slackness in performance to go down? That's why you see we're going to look at this gap analysis and performance improvement. You see this? We're actually coming there. But before that, we have to look at the problems. So we have seen that we need to improve the performance and identify the root cause of slackness in performance. Even this, the improved performance already, we need to identify the root cause. How did they achieve more than 5%? Okay? So some people maybe they are intelligent, they have no resources, but they're using something else to achieve the targets that have been set. You still need to find the root cause of how they are achieving that. Do we know the reasons why Japan is developed? We need to find how they are developed.
Yes.
So we know they are a rich country, but before 1945, they were somehow, not that developed. But they did something which we have to investigate, and we go to the root of it. That's the whole reason for performance measurement. Okay? So we don't only measure things that are low, we also measure things that are high above the targets. Okay, so the first one is choosing measures that do not link with strategy. Choosing measures that do not link with the strategy. So let's say this is our strategy. This is typical. Okay, we want to measure performance, but we are concentrating on ICT. What does ITC got to do with sales of GPP? So choosing measures that do not link with the strategy are a problem. Measures that have little meaning for the people who are supposed to drive them. When you take measures that have got little meaning to the people that are supposed to drive them, you should know that there will be a problem. So when you set your goals, you need to know the impact. Impact. And on the people that are supposed also to be used to drive them. Another one is drives the wrong performance. When you have chosen the wrong area, it drives the wrong performance. Instead of doing procurement measurement, you're doing HR measurement. You are putting the effort on the wrong place. Frivolity. Frivolous. Something that is petty. Oh, not petty, but petty. People don't take performance measurement seriously. Okay? So you've set your target to your employees to say every year we'll be having performance appraisals. Every time you have the performance appraisal, feedback doesn't come out, action is not taken. Next time you do it, people will not take you serious, right? Yeah. The same applies to an organization. You're measuring the performance of a supplier. You're telling them we're going to measure you against A, B, C, D, E, and you don't tell them the results. Next year, you're doing the same exercise, they will tell you, we are used to that. Okay. Encourages interpersonal competition and discourages teamwork. So performance measures, when they are departmental, they encourage interpersonal competition and they discourage teamwork. So others can achieve more, others can achieve less, others can become disgruntled, others can become satisfied. Those are the problems. The other one is measuring too often. Measuring too often. Constant measuring of performance. It becomes boring. Yeah? And people don't take you serious. And measures that are backward looking and not leading. So much as performance measurement looks at the previous performance, but would want to have this performance measurement system to lead us to be proactive. What is being proactive? To think ahead, yeah? Yeah, not to be reactive. So we would want to have performance measurement that are proactive in nature. We need to make decisions that will improve performance not just for now, but for the future. Let us look at gap analysis and performance improvement. So there can be a mismatch, as we have seen here, that there is a mismatch. We have achieved only 3.5% performance improvement, or as our target, we have only reached 3.5 instead of 5%. So there's a gap, a mismatch in terms of performance. And that examination is called variance analysis, which brings us back to what we determined to say whether it's a positive response or a negative response. So they say an operational gap exists because an organization is not doing well what it is supposed to do. An organization is not doing well what it is supposed to do. So here, Chipiku is not making sales.